We need about $45 to $50 a barrel. And to get to all that fracking stuff, you really need a barrel of a price of around $70 a barrel, which means gas prices without the state and federal taxes should be around somewhere around, I think the number was $2.30 to $2.50 a gallon. Plus then you add your stupid taxes on it, which is going to push your, depending on the state you are, close to $3 a gallon. Sorry, but that's the reality. And I know some people have said, and I've always shut people up when they come at me and say, well, isn't it good for the economy that our gas prices are so low? Well, no, not really. Because you have all of those high-paying blue-collar and white-collar jobs, especially blue-collar jobs, extremely high-paying blue-collar jobs that are lost when the price of oil is too low to sustain that business model. Those people are put out of work. They become unemployed. So now you have somebody earning, out of high school, earning $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year, who now no longer have a job. Is that good for the economy? Well, no. See, at some point, and this is what people these leftists just don't understand about simple economics 101, especially when you listen to them pile on Walmart. Well, Walmart doesn't pay their people a living wage. I don't know what a living wage is because that's just a bunch of BS. It's just a bunch of touchy-feely, stupid BS. Well, fine. Look, Walmart has learned, and they've proven it, and I think that they did this on purpose just to prove the fact. Walmart's profits were way down. Why? Because they gave a bunch of their people a minimal raise. Minimal. I mean, they're not paying, a minimum of $15 an hour. I think, what was it, went up to $10 or something like that? It was a minimum. And their profits went into the basement. They're still profitable, but it dropped considerably. And you got those on the left just wondering, well, what happened? Well, you stupid idiots, you can't raise the price on stuff to match that kind of stuff all the time. Walmart tried not raising their prices, and look what happened. Well, then they should raise their prices. Well, then all those wonderful people, it's called inflation. Then that means if prices go up, then that $15 an hour job is no longer advantageous, is it? It now becomes the equivalent of previous times when they were earning only $8, $9, $10 an hour. And when you explain it to the liberal in those terms, they still do not get it because they're fixated on $15 an hour. And they get to the $15 an hour, and instead of milk being $2 a gallon, milk is now $4 a gallon, and they wonder why people are not moving out of poverty. They really wonder. And you explain it over and over and over again, and they still don't get it. I don't understand the disconnect. I really don't understand the disconnect. Well, it has everything to do with education. Actually, there's a story here. I got it from WND.com. There's a video, and I'll put it up on rodeccles.net a little bit later for you to see. Common Core. It's about Common Core. There's a teacher who was caught under undercover video. And this is the teacher said, "Well, yeah, hey, I hate kids." That's what she said. She said she hates kids. I don't. It is what it is. I don't know how you can be a teacher and hate kids. But it's quite simple, really, because it isn't about teaching kids. Not at all. It's simply about what they say here, what she says, it's a money game. It's a money game. Basically, an undercover sting of Common Core book publishers revealed insiders who hate kids and push a BS system to sell books. Now, again, as you would expect, it's conservative activist, as they call him, James O'Keefe of Project Veritas, released video yesterday of a New York City teacher and a former accounts manager at publisher Houghton Mifflin, who described the system as a giant money grab. Now, you don't think that this is a quote. You don't think that the educational publishing companies are in it for the education, do you? Said Diane Barrow, an ex-Houghton Mifflin employee. They're in it for the money. Now, when O'Keefe tries to tell Barrow she seems like a woman who is in it for the kids, she throws her head back, cackles like a Hillary Clinton laugh, and says, "I hate kids. I'm in it to sell books. Don't even kid yourself for a heartbeat. I'm in it to sell books." Folks, this just goes to show how stupid people can be. I mean, it's not just stupidity. It's simple arrogance. I just do not understand how people like James O'Keefe can continually get these people, especially on the left, to constantly admit their hatred for a certain part of humanity. How they can open... Now, granted, they don't know that there's a hidden camera, but they should have in the back of their mind, somebody else could be listening to this conversation, but they do not care. They are so freaking arrogant as to think that they could never be caught, they could never be stopped, so why not just tell the truth about, to this one person sitting in front of me, about how I really feel, and that this is not a minority view. Understand, this whole issue about Common Core is not about kids. It's the government raping the American citizen's wallet in more than one way and leaving a destructive, destitute population that is yearning to learn something but learns nothing. That's what it's all about. It's about dumbing down the population so much, so bad, that they are so easy to manipulate and control. And that's exactly what you have with the millennials right now. I am going to... Look, a lot of these kids, they may know computers, and they may be able to come up with, great computer code and stuff, but I got to tell you, the millennial generation has got to be the dumbest generation that this country has ever produced. It really has to be. I'm sorry. They really are. I know there's going to be millennials out there thinking, well, we're not dumb. Yeah, you are. And I know that they try to say that millennials, it's a myth that they're lazy. It's not a myth. It's not a myth. They want what they want, and they want it now. And if they can't get what they want now, then they don't want to do a damn thing. Look, I want to make six figures, and I want to be in this kind of a job. That's what I went to school for. I want this job, and that job's not available, so I'm not going to do anything. That's the millennial attitude. Sure, once they get the job that they want, they can be a workhorse like anybody else. But if they don't have the job that they want, which is the vast majority of millennials, then they will sit around on their ass and do nothing and pout instead of going out and doing something creative and constructive. That's laziness. And you can't tell me that is not what's happening, because the numbers from the Obama administration is telling us that's exactly what's happening. They're not going out to work at Burger King. Well, I'm not, Burger King. I can't work there. I make $10 an hour. I deserve at least $50. I deserve $20 an hour for flipping burgers, but I'll take $15 if I'm going to do that, because, I deserve $100,000 a year anyway because I went to college. You went to college and learned absolutely Jack. You didn't learn anything. You got a fake, phony, a degree, and you spent $60, $70, $100, $200,000 for the privilege of having that stupid piece of paper that you can frame and hang on your wall. Nobody cares about that degree. You may have employers that say, well, we need a degree. You got to have a degree for this. You know how many I've always applied to jobs. When I was working for other people, I applied when somebody said degree required. This type of degree, bachelor's degree, 4-year degree, 6-year degree, I always applied. And you know what? They could see on my resume, I didn't have that type of degree, but I almost always got an interview. Now, if they're demanding that somebody that is going to apply for this job have that degree, they wouldn't bother to interview if they really meant it. They don't mean it. I've gotten jobs without having that degree that they were looking. Why? Because the reality is they want somebody who's smart enough to be able to learn the job the way they want to teach it, who has the ability and the experience to do the job. And you people that are coming up with these $200,000 degrees that are fake degrees to begin with, they don't measure up. And this has been going on for the last 3 decades, and it's only getting worse. It's only getting worse. So you better understand that if you're gonna go to college now, if you're a 17 or 18-year-old junior or senior in high school, or you're right now a freshman or sophomore in college, and you're spending your money or your parents' money, you better understand that you need to get a real degree. In order to get a real degree, you got to start taking real classes, and you need to leave those stupid, every single one of those stupid easy A courses, easy 4.0 courses off your resume or off your transcript. Do not, unless your college is forcing you to take gender studies, do not take that. Don't bother. Take a real class where you're going to learn something that you can utilize in the real world so that when you sit down and you're talking to a hiring manager or a CEO, you can say, well, yes, I learned in this class. They can look at you and say, well, that's a real class. Because if you sit down in front of them and say, well, my gender studies class, he's going to turn you off and say, this kid's an idiot. He's not going to be worth my time. I can't pay him $50,000 a year or $100,000 a year for this job because he knows nothing. Understand, that's the truth. That is why you guys cannot find jobs. It isn't necessarily you do have the H-1B1 problem for some of you. But it's also not the fact that the jobs aren't there, because obviously some people are getting jobs. Some people are trading jobs. Look, there are people in the business of headhunters or executive recruiters. They're finding people jobs all the time. But they're finding the jobs for the people who have the real knowledge, the real experience. You younger guys coming up with these fresh degrees, the reason why you're not finding a job is simply because you've been had by big education. They've taken your money, given you a fake degree in return. And let me tell you something, business understands fake degrees. They can't afford to have stupid, ignorant people who do not have the education to put in jobs, because they're competing internationally against people in Asia and in Europe and in growing sectors of Africa and South America that actually know the job and the business that you're trying to get into. And trust me, they do not have time to try to train you. And yet you're wondering why you can't find it, because you've been had. And that just goes to show right there, that teacher and that bookseller in Common Core is nothing but a scam. It's a scam that's costing the American taxpayer millions of dollars every year. Just remember, hey, she said it. Most of us in this business, we hate kids. We're just in it to sell books. In other words, translation, we're just in it to make lots of money off the taxpayer at the kids' expense.